Hey, it's Russell from What Drives Us, and I have the good fortune to be here with Alan Schneider, who is the senior principal designer at CALTY.
CALTY Design.
CALTY Design, which does design for Toyota.
Yes.
And Lexus.
And truck as well.
And
Toyota
truck as well.
Sure.
Alan is the man who did the interior of the brand new 2019 Avalon. And it's a fascinating story of how all these bits came together. And I want to start with the first thing that I asked you about. In the presentation, they mentioned Yamaha wood, and my mind reeled. What could Yamaha wood be? Alan, enlighten us, please, sir.
Well, we had the good fortune of working with Yamaha, the supplier, who provides the wood ornaments for us for this limited grade Avalon. And the actual wood species, popularly known as sapelli, is the type of wood that was chosen for this application, and that is what Yamaha provides for us.
So not actually Yamaha wood. It's a wood supplied by Yamaha, and the reason they're good at this, good at doing this, is because of the critical nature of the tolerances. I guess is the word that I'm looking for. Right?
This wood is interesting because it's a challenge forming this type of wood. The curvature, the tight radius that you see, the way it's finished off, the way that it actually terminates where that chrome edge basically terminates that side surface, and the way it has to align and match the door. So we wanted a wood that had a very beautiful and consistent linear pattern, and also had the strength and ability to be able to form in this type of application. And they recommended sapelli as the species, and also it met a lot of our requirements as well. It's highly sustainable, it's renewable, it has great strength and great consistency. So I'm very pleased with the outcome.
It's gorgeous. I mean, it's beautiful. And after you told me about how it all sort of fits together,
yes,
I was like, oh, you take some of these little things for granted until you realize the amount of thought that goes into them.
Yes, it's not just sticking a piece of wood in. It's quite literally forming the wood over a very engineered substrate for consistency, for safety, and for the perfect tolerances and appearance on these edges.
Right.
So,
and again, the wood had to adhere to the substrate because you put two other materials on top of the substrate.
Right.
This is just in one trim.
Right. The limited grade, as you see, has the wood. Then if you get the Touring or the XSE grade, we have a genuine aluminum trim that has a textured finish. And it's also installed exactly the same way. It comprises the same parts. So, and then on the XLE grade, we have another finish, which is done in a different manner.
Oh.
And each one of those finishes has a very different appearance based on the impression that we want to make for the grade. But they all have to work with the basic form of the interior, and they all have to be achievable to the same level of tolerance. Right. So it's there's multiple considerations.
There's so much. I mean, I think we take that for granted, not being car designers, that you just slap something in here, it's just a dashboard, it comes out of an extrusion machine, and they screw it to the frame, right? But I think that's what most people think. And then you mentioned something earlier about the leather and the steering wheel and how that aligned, and I didn't even think of that.
And these aren't things that you necessarily have to instantly notice, but it's the overall impression that you get when you see for example, on this grade, no matter which color you get, this is the beige, this mid-IP area, this hand-wrapped and stitched material that extends all the way across, actually is matched on the steering wheel in this location, so as not to interrupt this horizontal flow. So that's one of the achievements of this particular grade.
I love that. I mean, I just love that somebody thought of that. That it's not just random happenstance.
That was part of the enjoyment working on this project, because each grade had such a distinct goal, such a distinct impression, that we were able to execute each one with that kind of thought in mind and the detailing.
The importance of the harmony of the interior is incredible, and I think people, again, don't really appreciate how much work goes into it. And this center console, center stack is sort of one of the things that grabbed my eye. Can you talk a little bit about the process that went into
sure. You know, the main goal with this interior was to combine two almost opposite ideas together. The idea of what we call our DNA, of spaciousness and openness and airiness, and yet also to increase the sense of driving engagement. And how do you do that? Because they're kind of opposite goals when you think about it. But the way we were able to achieve that was with this style applied to our TNGA platform, which allowed us to lower the base IP. And then we created what I call this crossover console. It's one complete sweep, which actually terminates in the center stack. Now, normally you can't really achieve that because what happens is you need some room here for your hand space.
Right.
So the way we did it was through what we call the crossover console. This sweeps in this direction, and then the console surface, you notice the way it dives down low and all the way through. It creates this open forward compartment where you have your wireless charger and your extra storage space underneath. It creates this cup holder, and in one sweep, allows this material, this soft material, to actually be carried through from the armrest, the cup holder, and the forward compartment. And by doing that, we've combined two opposite things: the sense of openness and spaciousness, and the sense of this driver cockpit and the ergonomics. So by doing that and moving these registers, instead of the usual position on top or the side, moving them down low, we were able to drop the IP line and create this open and wide sense where this whole mid-IP just shoots forward and continues all the way behind the center stack, really saying this technology is our focus.
Yeah. It's a beautiful combination of elements. I mean, again, you talked about that light color block that sweeps across here. You've got this light piece here that actually divides that darker center stack.
Right.
I mean, it's a beautiful way of connecting elements.
Yeah, it's what we call a simple but very basic and strong architecture. So we look for these kind of things to really distinguish this vehicle, not only in the segment, but within our lineup as well. This is really a unique shape for us. And of course, without the details, it would only be half complete.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and it's wonderful to know the story too, because you appreciate it so much more. Otherwise, again, you just look at it and go, oh. I have to ask about the quilted leather. Was that something you did, or what?
Well,
how does that fit in?
Well, a designer like me never works in a vacuum.
Of course.
You know, I have worked with a great team of designers at CALTY doing this interior, and one of the things that we wanted to do was kind of redefine how we do quilting. We don't even call it quilting at CALTY. We really call it dynamic stitching, because quilt patterns typically have a sort of an equal amount of
very
distance.
static,
but this actually sweeps around and it expands as it goes back. Not only on the door, but also you'll notice on the seats, it does the same thing. And in addition to that, our color group negotiated our supplier to actually create a new machine process where they have a double needle and stitches in two different colors to create this perfect parallel line, and in each color of limited, it's a bicolor stitch on the door and on the seat as well.
That's crazy.
So it's those kind of fine details that really, I think, create that sense of not only is it big and sort of interesting overall architecture, but the details satisfy as well. And that's, to me, that's what makes a premium interior.
It's gorgeously done. I mean, little things we talked earlier about the registers and how these are different than most other vehicles.
Well, not only are they compact, but there's a very interesting situation here on the main IP register.
Yeah.
If you notice, the main divider, it seamlessly runs all the way through and even behind, and then all the way back on this side. But it was a very big challenge working with engineering to figure out a way to make a register that's adjustable but never loses its perfect alignment.
Right. And
no matter where you adjust it.
That's
so
amazing.
It always looks
you don't
seamless.
See it.
It's one of those details, like I said. The engineering group that we worked with really worked very hard to preserve all of these details that we thought would make a difference overall to the customer. And whereas each one you may not notice first, overall, when you look at it, you get this sense of this is premium. This is really unique.
The details adds to the richness of the depth of the overall look. It's, again, and knowing more about it is so much more fun.
Even if you, for example, you look at this meter panel, it looks very simple and very clear and precise, which it is, but we actually at CALTY were able to work with engineering and human factors to specify the size and scale of the numbers and their spacing, which was a kind of a unique condition for this vehicle because we wanted it to appear a certain way, a premium way. And these illuminated rings you see around each of these gauges actually has a similar technology to the headlamps, where when the vehicle's off, you see a solid chrome ring. But then the way that the chrome is removed just in the area of the lighting when the meter's on, suddenly you get the illumination.
Is that laser ablative process?
I believe so.
Yeah,
That's
okay.
what you get the sense of, the surprise. You didn't know that could light up.
Right.
But it does. So it adds that detail. That's on this grade, of course.
Right.
And then on the other grades, we have other treatments that we think correspond to the atmosphere of the interior overall.
So there's a lot of little details even between the different trims.
Absolutely. Like we were talking about earlier, the touring grade and the XSE has the textured aluminum, which is really beautiful when you look at that dark aluminum next to this chrome plated ornament, satin chrome plate. Those two, that combination is very rich and sporty. Then on the seats and on the door trim, there's a combination of the ultra suede on the seat along with the Softex and accent stitching in a completely different pattern from this seat. So it looks a little different. It looks like what you'd expect. It's got the type of stitching with that sort of channels that sort of gives you that feeling of classic sport and elegance. And so each one has a lot of thought behind what makes that special.
And again, what blows me away is the amount of thought that went into making each trim special, as opposed to just, this one's in vinyl, this one's in leather, this one's in fabric, or you know what I mean? Just a lot of companies don't put that much thought into that. I think people are almost.
I think everybody certainly tries to put thought into making every grade different, but I think the opportunity that the design group had to express their feeling and to be able to execute these is rare. And that's still what amazes me and I appreciate about working for Toyota Company for 27 years actually now. It's how closely they can produce the dreams that we have as designers. That's the great part of it.
That's an amazing thing.
Yeah.
Very lucky. Alan, thank you so much.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
For talking to us today. And we'll see you again, hopefully, the next generation of Avalon. Maybe something else. What, are you allowed to say what you're working on now?
I'm working on something. Stay tuned.
We'll be back when he has something new to show us. Thanks, Alan.
Thank you.
And thank you.